Here. Okay, I must admit it's the first time since I've really got the ShapeOko that I'm actually happy with its setup and everything that is happening. I've had problems with the Z-axis flex, and I've put strengthening bars in and fixed some V-wheel issues which some other folk have found there's movement there. I've got some board sitting resting against the top wasteboard, and I've got the original wasteboard underneath it, and that creates a little bit of a ledge there, which I've got some hardboard there, which creates a little bit of an enclosure to stop all of the dust and dirt. I've also got my dust shoe going, which is great. I've finally fixed the issues of the ShapeOko stopping, and I've got a capacitor sitting there, a 1500 microfarad cap across the 24 volt power supply lines, just soldered into the board. I've not had any stops or problems since then. So generally the machine is running really well, and I've got my cable management set up there, and it's just on a hook. And I've installed some 0 switches. Now I've got mine, I guess, the other way around. I wanted 0 to be the front left, so I've installed my switches so that it homes to the front left, and I've also got a touch plate with a crocodile clip to the spindle there, which works really well. What I found though, of course, that the Y-axis movement would come all the way to the front of the ShapeOko, and that would mean that the spindle would actually hang over the edge. So what I've done is I've created a little bit of a bracket there, which is completely removable and adjustable up the length of the Y-axis, so I've got complete control there, and I've got my switches mounted so that it will just butt into the top bit there. So that's all working really well. You need to change something in config.h and upload the Gerbil software to the ShapeOko board, which I've done. That was relatively painless. And I'm now using the WCS settings, in which case the other thing that's worth talking about is B, C and C. That's it here. I'm kind of new to it, but it's fantastic for using homing switches and WCS settings. Carbide motion, while it's great, just didn't work. So I may go back to using it eventually, but right now I'm using B, C and C. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'm just going to do a couple of things, and then I will show you how I use the setup. The other thing that I do is I hot glue everything down to my wasteboard. Again, this is a top wasteboard. Underneath that is the original one that came with the ShapeOko, so this one just is replaceable. I've hacked mine, so I've got a laser, and so this pattern here that you can see has been lasered into that top wasteboard, which makes aligning the material really easy, which is fantastic. And I've also got some foam cutting adjustments, foam cutting for polystyrene, and also I've made up a little drag knife assembly here as well, which I've had great fun cutting vinyl. But that's hot glued down. That's all I use. It's pretty strong. That's not coming off. So let's stop the video and I'll show you actually how I use it. I have got my touch plate sitting right underneath the spindle, and the crocodile clip is attached to the spindle, and then the touch plate goes through to a connector there, which I can detach. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to issue a home command, so that's $H, and forgive me if it goes out of focus while I do this. And what's going to happen is the machine's going to home, and the spindle is going to move down in the first movement, touch the plate, and then the X and Y will home. That plate is exactly 1 millimeter thick. So down it goes. And now it's going to home. And so I've now, because I've got this bracket here, my machine is homed pretty much to where I want it. I'm going to remove that clip, take that connector off, doing it one-handed, and now my machine is homed. So I have got a setting, a WCS setting for exactly where that board is at the 00 position there. That's my G55, which I'll use shortly. But what I want to do is make sure that the spindle drops down on the material. So I have got in here another WCS setting for G54. So I don't know whether you can see it, G54. If I hit the home command, what's going to happen is the spindle is going to rise straight up. So the G54 WCS setting is exactly in that home point from an X and Y perspective, but I lifted it right up from the Z. So I'm going to hit that button and you'll see what's going to happen. That's just going to lift straight up, no other movement. Now I am going to load some code, so I'm just going to pause while I do that. Okay, so I've opened the code in Notepad just so you can see. So the third line down is G55. I've just added that G55 line into the G code, and basically that's going to tell CBNC that I'm going to start using 00 being my G55 point, which I've had preset here. So hopefully when I load the G code, that's where it's going to start cutting from. So it's going to start cutting from that G55 point there that I've got marked, and I've put that G55 into the G code. So let's just pop that down. And I've loaded some code. Let me just make sure I have loaded the code. I have. I'm going to etch a little Android there and turn on the spindle. Hit the start button. That is now cutting exactly on top of the material. What I did with that material was I measured it with my micrometer at 4.75mm thick, and I just made that the material depth in my CAM software, and I'm using ArtCam. So there we go, perfectly centered, perfect depth, and fully automatic. Nearly finished. And now it's finished. So I'm going to turn the spindle off, and I probably shouldn't do it, but I'm just going to manually move the machine out of the way. And so it has cut exactly where I wanted it to, from my G55 point being 00. The material was measured with a micrometer as 4.75mm. and that was taken into account as material thickness when I did my CAM. So just by using the homing switches, using the touch plate, I got the home location exactly on the wasteboard. I know exactly how thick the material is. I've got an exact point for my 00 location for G55. I could put it anywhere on my wasteboard, and the rest is just the machine cutting. Didn't do too well with this. It's just a test for the video, but it has centered pretty much exactly as I wanted it. So that's how I use it. Again, I've got my 00 front left, and at the bottom, I think by default it's over on the far right hand corner, and you've got negative numbers to play around with. It all seemed a bit sort of